Hey guys, welcome along to the channel again, and I'm keen to discuss England's recent Nations League campaign. So England have just lost to Hungary 4-0 at home, their biggest home loss since 1928. And it's not been a very productive, successful 10 days for England. So they've picked up 2 points in 4 games in this Nations League sector, in this A group that they're in. So they need to obviously win this group in order to qualify for the semi-finals of the Nations League. So it pretty much looks as if they're not in a great situation in this group. The group concludes in September, where England play Germany and Italy, but they're at the bottom of the group, I believe, as it stands. So it's not looking great from that point of view. So let's just take a moment, guys, to reflect. So England have lost 4-0 tonight. And their first game, so this is their second loss to Hungary in 10 days. They lost away to Hungary 10 days ago, 1-0. They then drew 1-1 with Germany, a Harry Kane penalty, helping them to prevent a double loss in a row, a late Harry Kane penalty. And then it was 0-0 against Italy in a very boring match. There wasn't much happening. And then today, 4-0 against Hungary. Now, let's just dissect this, guys, because it's interesting. On the one hand, it feels like a big drama. It feels like a calamity. It feels like a disaster for Gareth Southgate and his England leadership. Where's it going? Is this guy the right guy for the job? Does he have enough credentials? Is he being exposed? Is he managing this talented group of players well enough? Are there too many random ad hoc decisions where he changes formation, he changes positions of players, he shoehorns in right backs? He loves right backs. He seems to neglect the left-sided defensive player, the fullback. And are these tactical alterations in order to fit specific personnel into a system compromising the functionality of the system? So, in other words, is he trying to fit in certain individuals that he likes, and is that resulting in a situation whereby certain players are playing out of position because they need to be accommodated, or Southgate wants to accommodate them? So these are some big questions that we need to consider. Now, 5 months to the World Cup, so it would be absolutely unthinkable for Gareth Southgate to be sacked. I don't think it's happening, so we might as well forget that. I think England are going to stick with Southgate for this World Cup campaign, and on balance, I think it's the right call, because we need to weigh in a little bit of context here, because yes, this has been a very disappointing 10 days, but I feel Southgate maybe has tried to strike a balance between blooding in new players, integrating new younger players into the group, but also keeping half an eye on trying to win games. And maybe the players have not quite felt comfortable, they haven't felt familiar with their roles. It's all felt a little bit rushed, and maybe that slight degree of uncertainty has contributed to the players just not looking completely comfortable out there. Now, I know England lost 4-0 tonight, but I did see some positives from an attacking point of view. Now, I made a few notes, guys, on the game. So, on the 5th minute, Saka, Kane and Reece James, they combine down the left-hand side. Really nice interplay. And Reece James, I believe, puts in the cross, and Bowen heads it, but it's blocked by the goalkeeper. And then there's another moment where Saka plays a cross in, and it leads to a near own goal. So one of the Hungary players is confused. He tries to head it away, but he ends up heading it towards his own goal, but it doesn't go in. So those are 2 moments. But generally there were some signs that there were some patterns of play in England's forward line. So Bellingham was getting involved, Gallagher was getting involved, and I was a little bit disappointed to see Gallagher taken off for Mason Mount on 56 minutes. So Conor Gallagher has had a pretty good season for Palace, and I really rate him. He's got this tenacious, almost tigerish mentality where he's constantly snapping at the heels of defenders. He's very good at pressing and closing down the spaces, and I think he's a kind of guy that I look at him and Mason Mount, and I don't think there's an awful lot between those two. And Mount seems to be the guy in favour for Southgate, but Gallagher's pushing him, I think. But I think Southgate will have taken from this result, I need to revert to type. I need to go back to the drawing board. I need to go back to what I know, which is the bog standard names, the Mounts, the Declan Rices, the Harry Maguires, the Kanes. And I don't think that's necessarily the wrong way to go, but I wouldn't see this night and think, Bowen's not good enough, Gallagher's not good enough, and some of these guys that have come in, I think they've done okay, but it's just been they've just been a victim of a little bit of a dysfunctioning system that's in its infancy. It's still evolving, and is that an ideal situation going into a World Cup with 5 months to go? I don't want to say no, because I feel as if at some point you do need to experiment and you do need to find out who and what works. So what systems work, what combinations work. And if it doesn't go to plan in the Nations League, better then than in the World Cup. So I'm a little bit reticent to say that this was a failed 10 days, because it's a little bit of in some ways it's a really good tournament, the Nations League, because it's competitive and the other teams are going to bring intensity and they're going to try and win the games, so it tests England. It's almost like a dress rehearsal for the World Cup. But on the other hand, it's not a complete disaster if England lose it. So that being said, I know there's a lot of ambiguities here and potentially contradictions, because England do want to develop a winning culture, they do want to develop a winning mentality, but I also feel that you do need to risk not being at your optimum level in order to find out certain answers and give players certain experiences. You can't be afraid to lose. And I think this is something that maybe has inhibited England in tournaments before. They've almost played with the handbrake on at times, and this has been a frustration from supporters. It's like, can we see a more expansive England in tournaments? But what I think this game showed is that it's gotten away from that, or England have almost shedded that fear of what it's like to lose heavily, because they've lost heavily. So it's almost like they've got a little bit of a weight off their shoulders of, okay, we had this match where we've just gone for it and we've blown out a few things that we don't want to repeat in the future, but it's out of our system now. We've kind of gone a little bit more attacking. It's not quite worked, but now we can maybe find the balance. It's like any training regime. If you're a weightlifter and you're trying to find the optimum weight that you want to lift in training, if you're going at weights that you can handle, great. You're able to control that and it's all working well. Then maybe you're in the back of your mind, you're thinking, maybe I can go a little bit heavier. And in one training session, one competition, weightlifting, you just push it a little bit too far and the weight's a little bit too heavy. Then you can find a weight that works for you. So England have kind of done that. They've maybe been playing conservative for a while and it's been going okay. They've been winning, but maybe not quite being expressive enough. Today they've gone the other way and tried to be more attacking. They've left holes in their defence, which we'll come to in a second. But ultimately, they've maybe found out that maybe we just need to taper that aggression a little bit, and next time we can pick our moments a bit more. So that's one positive to take from it. In terms of his defensive performance, though, this is for me the biggest concern, the defence. So, again, guys, I made these notes, and a common theme has been there were just too many gaps, guys, in the defence, and it particularly seemed to happen on England's right-hand side of their defence. Hungary were profiting from pockets of space that were being left. So if we look at the first goal, Sholloy at the back post for the corner, he finds a bit of space after Harry Kane misses his header, and he finishes the shot. And then in the second goal, Calvin Phillips loses possession, and then the cross comes in, and again it comes to the left hand side, but England's right hand side, Hungary's left hand side. And the third goal was a cross that came in. Maybe it should have been shut down quicker from the defence on the left, but the shot came in and then it broke, and again it was a shot from the left-hand side of Hungary's attack, England's right of their defence. And then the final goal, guys, on 89 minutes, it was a through ball that cut between Maguire and Walker on England's right-hand side of their defence again. So what does that say? Maybe it says that Southgate hasn't found a combination that seems to work. So he has this confusion with his right backs. Sometimes he's playing Kyle Walker, sometimes it's Reece James, sometimes it's Trent Alexander-Arnold, sometimes it's Kieran Trippier. It's like he can't quite seem to get the blend right. So if he plays, it seems to me that Walker's his trusted guy, is his go-to guy. He's going to play Kyle Walker. So tonight he played Kyle Walker in the middle of the defence for the majority of it. And that meant he could accommodate another right back, Reece James. So, but maybe that also meant that James and Walker don't quite have the communication because they're not used to playing together as much. Maguire and Walker maybe aren't used to playing together as a central defensive pair, as was shown for the fourth goal, albeit Maguire came on off the bench. Before that, we had Gehi in there, and he was one of his early caps, and obviously he's maybe not familiar with playing with some of the other guys in that defence. And then there's this issue that I mentioned before, that he doesn't use a left-footed left-back. So he was using Luke Shaw in Euro 2021, delayed tournament, and it worked. Luke Shaw provided a great outlet. He was bombing on down the left, and that gave England natural width. Shaw combined really well with Grealish, he combined well with Kane, he combined well with Sterling. All of the guys down that left channel, Luke Shaw, it seemed to work, that solidification of that side, by having a naturally left-footed player on that side. So now he's playing Trippier on the left, and I think he even played James on the left in the first half and switched him to the right for the second half, and then put Saka in, I believe, a left roaming fullback. Now, I believe Saka is better in the attacking third. I think he's more of an attacking option. Don't think he's as good in that left wing-back role. So I feel that, I know Ben Chilwell's coming back from injury, but Ben Chilwell, Luke Shaw, Tyreek Mitchell, one of these guys needs to nail down that left-back spot. And I think that will give England a little bit more structure and somehow unity, and they'll be able to close down spaces a bit better. For example, was it the fourth goal, guys? No, it was the third goal, where the cross came in. England were a bit sloppy in closing down the right winger. If that's Luke Shaw, if that's Ben Chilwell, you'd think, okay, that's a natural left back. They can close down that guy on the right flank. So I think the defence needs to be looked at as the priority. How does Southgate want to set up from the back? Does he want to go with two central defenders and a right back and a left back? Does he want to go with three central defenders and a right wing back and a left wing back? The benefit of going with three central defenders means he can play Walker and one of his other favoured right backs, be it Reece James, be it Alexander-Arnold. And that was one positive from today, people. I thought Reece James was putting in crosses, and there was one moment he put one in and Kane nearly got on the end of it. So I don't think it was all a doom and gloom type evening for for England tonight. I think there were some positives, but I do feel Southgate needs to address that defence. Everything starts from there. England did miss Declan Rice. I think they do miss that shield, and I think Southgate will definitely revert back to this pivot of Phillips and Rice for the World Cup. I can't see him using Gallagher or Bellingham now alongside Rice, because I just think he'll think tonight, we conceded these goals, we need that protection in front of the defence. So, yeah. Southgate, I like him. I think he's done a wonderful job. He's reconnected fans with players, with media. He's got the likability factor back in the England team. He represents England with a lot of dignity in press conferences. One element I think Southgate that just bothers me slightly with him in his press conferences, I feel like he's a little bit, he draws attention to the faults of his players a little bit too much in a public way. I feel he just needs to be a bit more like closed on certain things, like not open up in every single situation. So, for example, when he's asked about Jack Grealish, he'll tend to say things like, yeah, obviously we rate Jack because he comes off the bench, he plays, he figures for us. He does need to improve on the defensive side of his role. And I'm thinking, okay, fair enough, but why not say that privately? Why do you have to draw attention to the slightly less, or the slightly weaker or part of Grealish's game in the press conference? And he did a similar thing, guys, with Ramsdale against Italy. He said, okay, Ramsdale had a very good game. He did give the ball away once, but generally his kicking was pretty good. And I'm thinking, why say the bit about giving the ball away? Why not just say he had a good game, his kicking was generally good? Why say the mistake? And he does it a little bit in these press conferences. I've noticed it with Maddison before, like he was asked before the Euros, I think, why did you not pick Maddison? And he kind of said, I thought he tailed off a bit towards the end of the season, and even Tielemans was taking the free kicks and corners. And I'm thinking, are you trying to lower the guy's confidence? Why are you saying these things so publicly? It's almost like he felt like he needed to justify his decision, like he wasn't confident in just making the decision and saying, guys, I just went with this one rather than this guy. And that's it. He has to give a reason. And it's almost like the reason can be seen as a bit of a knock on the other player's confidence. And he's done it before, guys. It's a trait of Southgate's that I don't really like. And I think he needs to stop doing it. Because if he is doing this, even behind closed doors, I think this could be a reason why England are maybe a bit inhibited sometimes. Because Southgate is obsessing about all of the mistakes. Like he's like that manager that's on your shoulder who is commenting on the things that aren't going as well. And I'm not saying Southgate is that person. I don't think he's a completely negative, claustrophobic type that's going to be on your shoulder all the time. I do think he is encouraging in some respects, and I do think he does command the respect of the players, and I think he's liked. But I just think there are little comments that could be a little bit damaging if you're constantly saying in the media things like, he did X well, but he didn't do Y well. It's like, why comment on Y? Why not just say he did X well, and we're happy with that? So that doesn't feel right to me. And I think the way you relate to your players, I think there is a very sensitive line. That if you focus on the negatives of their play, they might lose a bit of confidence. And I alluded earlier, guys, to the fact that players maybe didn't feel completely comfortable in their roles or familiar with their roles. If Southgate's cluttering them with too much information, then it might stifle that expressiveness. And it might not all be explicit, guys. So some of it with Southgate, I feel he does. So this is why it's a little bit of a grey area, because I don't want to say he's completely a tyrannical manager that's constantly criticizing, because I don't think that's the case at all. I think he is a very uplifting, inspiring person in some respects, but I do feel maybe with some comments he could just be a little bit hold something back. You don't have to reveal the full answer all the time, and if you do feel Grealish's defensive side is not as strong maybe as his attacking side, maybe have that conversation with Jack and one of the coaches on the training pitch and say, okay, Jack, this is what you could do in this situation, but we love what you just did there. Keep doing that, but maybe in this situation, you could look at doing this. So just something technical, like a technical piece of advice, rather than making comments about what he can and can't do, because that can feel a sense of finality. It's like, the manager feels like I'm good at this, but I'm not good at this, end of story. But if you say something like, okay, Jack, we want you to do a bit more of this, it's like his weaker side of his game can be worked on, it can be improved, because Southgate's identified it and he's actually giving him instruction on how to develop it. I wonder if Southgate's almost got in his head what he thinks his players can do well and what he thinks his players don't do well. And it almost feels set in stone. Whereas you look at a manager like Antonio Conte at Tottenham, and I feel like Conte thinks to himself, okay, this player, whoever it may be, let's use, for example, Matt Doherty, the right back at Tottenham. He might say, okay, Matt might be doing this well, but I want to turn Matt into a better right back. I want him to do this, this, and this, and we can work on it, and this is how we do it. We've identified the slight area of improvement, and we're going to improve it. With Southgate, is he doing the same thing? Is he looking at a player and saying, okay, I like what they're doing there, and we're going to create almost like a training program to develop the side I want to improve on? It seems to me he's like, okay, X, Y, and Z does this well, therefore they're playing. Grealish is going to come on as an impact sub because we don't trust his defending, but he's going to come on because we think he can create something. So is there enough development of the players' tactical knowledge when they go on the pitch? Are they feeling a little bit like, the manager sees me in this light, he thinks I can do X, Y, and Z, but he doesn't trust me with Y? So if the player is going onto the field with that mindset, they're not going to be as confident or comfortable. They're going to be feeling like every mistake they make might cost them. It might be seen as a mark against them, and Southgate might not use them in the future. And that's not a good situation. You want to be going into, as a player, I'm thinking, you want to be going into matches feeling like I've got the backing of the manager. He believes in me 100%. Even if I make a mistake, he's got my back. I just question with Southgate, is he that guy? Like, does Grealish go into the pitch and think, I'm just using Grealish as an example, guys, it could be anyone, it could be, who else has kind of been on the fringes a bit lately? Alexander-Arnold, potentially. So anyone like that who's been a bit in and out of the team, are they going in thinking, Gareth doubts me? Like, with Alexander-Arnold, the question has been, is he as good defensively as he is going forward? If he's thinking, I've got these doubters about my defending, Reece James is waiting to take my place, or Kyle Walker, is he going to go out there and express himself? Are you going to get the best Trent Alexander-Arnold in that situation? So, for me, guys, this is the area Southgate needs to improve. I think he needs to be able to break the ice with his players a bit more on an individual level, and try and be able to allow them to express themselves and maybe not draw so much attention to what they don't offer. I think that's something that Southgate needs to work on. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. Obviously, it's a little bit of a tricky sort of 10 days that England have had, these two defeats and whatever. But it has been a long season. Hopefully Southgate's taken some lessons, and hopefully he's learning lessons himself, not just about his players. And hopefully England can rediscover something before the World Cup. And then one thing I will say, though, about Southgate and England is once they've hit the tournaments, when it's really mattered, they have shown a bit of steel. They've shown a bit of togetherness. and a solidarity and a strength of character, and also an ability to perform under pressure. So I think they might rediscover that once the tournament kicks in, the pressure of the World Cup, because they've been there and done it to an extent. Like, they've made a semi-final and a final World Cup Euros. So let's see, guys. I still believe England have got a shot at the World Cup. Obviously, that perception has been a little bit altered as a result of these games, but I still feel England have got a chance. Okay, guys, let me know what you think of the video. Let me know what you think of the England situation. Are they tracking well? Has this Nation League derailed them in any way, or are they still progressing as you'd want? Okay, people, whack a like on the video if you like it, and don't forget to subscribe as well. All right, people, peace.